Thanks for joining us again here at Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We're here with our Week 4 NFL review at the old-fashioned quarter stage mark of the season. There's plenty that's gone on for sure. We've had another jam-packed week. Games that we just can't call, games that we're seeming to be on the wrong side of. I'm just speaking for myself here more than anything. What another wild week in the NFL. Byron joins me. It's our last one as a duo. Byron, Joe will be with us from next week. What a week 4. Just another completely unpredictable week.
Yeah, very much so. I think between the two of us, we got 9 of our ATS picks right out of more than 9. So not a great week for us too.
Yeah, at this point.
Yeah, I didn't need the actual number, but cheers. Rub it in. Wild week. And we're recording pre-Monday Night Football. There's 3 undefeated teams left in the league. The Chiefs we all expected, Seahawks with their first 3 games we maybe could have seen coming. And I think the first team we're going to cover, the Minnesota Vikings, 4-0.
Yeah.
Did not see this one coming. Some of those had them projected as the worst team in the NFL. After JJ McCarthy went down, thought they'd have the number 1 pick in the draft next year. That was me. Miles off it. I think we're down to 1 winless team coming into Monday Night Football. And that could go tonight, Tennessee Titans. So, yeah, great year of wild results. And maybe parity is finally getting towards king in NFL. And again, the Chiefs are being
don't discount the Jacksonville Jaguars because although they covered...
Oh, they are 0-4, yeah. Very good shout. Jags are holding on to that 0-4 for everybody, I guess. Parity feels like it might be close as well with the Chiefs taking some bangs yesterday, but we'll get to them when we get to them.
Yeah, we've got 4 games that we'll review in detail, 4 of the top games from the week before we go over and review our FourFold competition, our ATS picks, checking on the winning Fantasy Gameday lineup, and we'll have an early look as well at Thursday Night Football. We can't forget about that. Just what a wild week. I mean, let's start. You mentioned kind of, without doubt, the absolute surprise story of the NFL so far in 2024, and that's the Minnesota Vikings being 4-0, beat the Green Bay Packers as underdogs as well. They were 2.5-point underdogs in this one.
Yeah,
31-29 in Green Bay at Lambeau Field, and the first half they were 20. The Vikings raced out to a 28-0 lead, and they just seem to be getting better. Sam Darnold seems to be getting better every single week.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, we say 31-29. That makes it sound like it's a close game. It wasn't a close game in any way. Like you say, it was 28-0 with 5 minutes remaining in the first half. And Packers, I'm not going to say garbage timed it, but they didn't start coming back until the 4th quarter. I think they maybe had a touchdown to end the 2nd quarter, in fact. But then 3rd quarter was nothing happened. And then the 4th quarter, Jordan Love put some points on the board. Jaden Reed got in. Dontavian Wicks got 2 touchdowns. Tucker Kraft got going. Who I think has just kind of relegated Luke Musgrave to the Titan 2 slot. But yeah, the story of the game is Sam Darnold again. 275 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw an interception. But yeah, I think this offense is probably going to continue to get better because, this was Jordan Addison's return game, his first game of the season, first game of Sam Darnold. He was kind of my YOLO to lead receiving bets this week. And he didn't quite get there, obviously. But I did get excited when I seen he got his first touchdown pretty early in the game. After 3 or 4 minutes, got a 29-yard touchdown pass. Ended up with 3 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. He also got a touchdown on the ground, a 7-yarder. But he's so dynamic. It's just another great weapon. Kevin O'Connell obviously already knows him. Takes a little bit of pressure off Justin Jefferson, who was just daddy again. Like that touchdown catch he had was... It was just like a dad playing with his kids. It felt like just like, Yank, I'm taking that. That's my... It wasn't even mossing. It was just like, no, that's mine.
The Vikings really targeted that kind of backup corner, didn't they? So Jaire Alexander missed the game for the Packers, and the Vikings just went after him and got joy all through that first half. And yeah, kind of the highlight of that was, although to be fair, that play where Jefferson does catch that, he plays that perfectly. You can't
really well played.
You can't cover that any better as a corner. No. And it's a perfect throw from Darnold and an unbelievable close body catch from Justin Jefferson. One bit I was really impressed with Jefferson, which is crazy because every week he does something that's really impressive, was prepared to block. He obviously threw a big block for Addison's end around rush touchdown as well. But Addison, you cashed with a touchdown at plus 300, so a great way to start your NFL Sunday. And yeah, the Vikings were just relentless in that first half. When you mentioned that it wasn't close, and I just rewatched the highlights again just before we jumped on. I kind of feel the Packers could have completed this comeback. They had that ball 3 times in the last 6 minutes of the game.
And Wicks had a big drop, I'm pretty sure it was, as well.
Yeah.
Hit him in the chest and just... It's very boom and bust to Dontavian Wicks. Obviously he gets 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. Can't really call it a bad game, but he did have a big drop. I'm pretty sure it was on 3rd down on one of them last 2 drives.
But yeah, the Packers had the ball 3 times in the last 6 minutes, and they were only down. They were down 9, and it was just. It felt like Love went maybe a bit too soon with kind of a long just chuck to the end zone, and that was obviously just needed a bit of patience. And they had a real bad. I think was it Tucker Kraft or Musgrave had a real bad fumble, and it was just like because they what the Packers did manage to do was just eventually just shut down the Vikings, because the Vikings, once it kind of got partway through that second half, were just unable to do anything offensively. The Packers got everything you needed to get one of those comebacks going. They got 2 early turnovers from Darnold in the second half. They got an interception at the goal line and also forced a fumble. So it was just like, I don't know, they were kind of there. It's just you can't put yourself in a 28-0 hole at the end of the day in the NFL, because the comeback doesn't happen that often, does it, from that point? So
no, they've never won from such a big deficit. I think it's 23 points is the biggest in Green Bay history. So they were going for history, and they did have a chance at it, like you say. I don't know. I just never thought they were going to get it, truthfully. So maybe I'm being a bit dismissive.
No, that's fair. Like I said, that Minnesota did play. Like I said, this Minnesota defense might be the king of tips and overthrows. Anything that gets put up, they just seem to snaffle up, which is massive for them. And there was a couple of Jordan Love. So Jordan Love's stat line didn't look great. He had the 4 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. 2 of those interceptions, I think, were on his guys. Like, just popped balls up that they shouldn't have done. Perfectly thrown balls that they just popped up into the air. So I'm not worried about Green Bay, though. Like, once they did get rolling, Jordan Love looked fine, and that offense looked good again. And the defense made big plays in the second half. So I'm not too worried about the Packers. I was real frustrated. I thought at -2.5 they were a real good shout. That was my bet on the game that didn't come in. But yourself, not only did you get the Addison touchdown at plus 300, you got Jaden Reed over 4.5 receptions, plus 110. And Joe cashed Reed over 50 yards, which he almost did 3 times over, because I think he was at 139 in the game on 7 receptions. Vikings up next. They come to London to play the Jets with all the momentum in the world.
Sam Darnold revenge game, and I think this is a real actual revenge game, right? We can have that one.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's definitely. I don't know if it was on our list at the start of the season, but yeah, this is definitely a Sam Darnold revenge game. I guess it probably wouldn't have been right, because we wouldn't have thought that Darnold.
None of us thought Darnold's any good. And again, I will happily hold my hand up as the highest there. I'm still not convinced, I will say. But I think the Jets matchup's a really nice one, because the Jets can't rush you.
Yeah, I think one of the things, again, just the Packers struggle with it a little bit, but he just seems to have so much time, and when you've got kind of the weapons that they've got, then you should be able to cause some damage. But I'm not out on them all. But I think my worry is, personally, I'm on the side of I can't jump across to the Vikings now, particularly and take for a bet perspective, because I've got it's coming, it's going to level out, they're going to come down. And my worry is that I'm going to do that next week and just end up with egg on my face again. If you support the Minnesota Vikings, me being on the opposite side is the best thing for you, because I have stunk through 4 weeks. So you could get to 14 or 15-0. Kind of the way I'm picking games at the minute. So you've got that, that's for sure. Jordan Love back. I think they'll be fine. The Packers won't. I saw enough of them where it wasn't a complete disaster in the end, that they were able to salvage something. Yeah,
agreed. Yeah.
Excellent. That's Vikings and Packers in the book. Colts, Steelers, the next one. Colts 127-24. They go to 2-2. Steelers 3-1. And I mean, just the question is, does this Colts team have a better chance of winning games with Joe Flacco than it does with Anthony Richardson?
It's a really good question, isn't it? I'm not sure. I don't think they're necessarily harmed by it, though, I will say. Maybe week to week, if maybe are better with Joe Flacco. I would struggle to turn the franchise over, though, because I think, we've started kind of seeing the narrative come out about Bryce Young that we've seen what Andy Dalton's done, and now it looks like, well, Bryce Young is definitely a bust then because Andy Dalton's doing well. I think Anthony Richardson maybe still has enough good that you want to see. Like, Bryce Young had no positives, whereas Anthony Richardson, there is positives with the negatives. So if Anthony Richardson's fit, I would want him back in there if I was a Colts fan. And, for the best of your long-term franchise, I think you do. But it is kind of hard to deny, Flacco didn't have a huge game, but 16 to 26, 16 to 25, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, looked good, got Josh Downs going. Josh Downs is one of my favorite, he's never going to be a wide receiver one in fantasy, but he's just one of the players I really like watching. He always just gets open. It reminds me a little of Jaden Reed, we discussed from the last game. And this was only his second game back, so he had a bit of a quiet week 1 for him, week 3. But again, I don't think he quite meshes with what Anthony Richardson does best, whereas he much more fits a proper... I've seen it described today on Twitter as like a millennial quarterback, because we do seem to have missed out on the Brady's, the Breezes, the Roethlisbergers left the league, and we don't really have that next group. It feels like we did lose that age group, and the next one's Dak. I know there's Stafford and Rodgers, but there's not many mid-30s guys, I don't feel like. You've got the Baker Mayfield to early 30s. So, and Flacco's kind of filling that thing of just being a pocket passer who is chill and, doesn't seem as hung up on competition as he used to be. I don't think he took well to Lamar Jackson coming in Baltimore, whereas now he's just more like a cool old uncle or old dad who's happy to teach the kids the new tricks and stuff like that. It was nice to see Flacco, and the Colts look better for it. I felt Jonathan Taylor looked better for it as well, weirdly. You feel like having Anthony Richardson back there should open up running lanes, and it doesn't really feel like that's how it's worked this season. It feels like there's just been a bit of a confused offense. So, I think week to week, you probably would be better with Joe Flacco. If I'm Shane Steichen, I don't think I'm pulling that trigger because I don't think the Colts need to win this year that badly that you bury your early draft pick, essentially. I think that's kind of what you would do. While he's fit, I think you just have to get him experience and get him out there. And, that's what, it's kind of easy to say, move on, but, you're not picking the top 5 very often. And it's a lot to swallow that as, oh, we fucked up. We shouldn't have taken Anthony Richardson. So I think they need to know that they're wrong before they fully commit to doing it, I think, is kind of my take on it.
Doesn't look like he's going to miss any time with a hip injury. I certainly thought it was a lot more than a hip injury. What a crazy decision to put him back in. I think he came out for a play, put him back in and give him an option.
I didn't understand that, yeah.
Yeah, and his own fault for not going down, giving himself up early. He should have gone down a bit earlier. It wasn't a dirty play at all by Minkah Fitzpatrick. He had he had nowhere to go, and he just brained him. I thought when he came out again, I thought he was concussed because Fitzpatrick nailed him in the head.
Yeah.
Just a bizarre thing to do at that point. But we're again worried about the 2 plays where he's got hurt, the hip injury, and then getting smashed in the face again. He's just this bit around not knowing when to go down. This is how he got hurt in 2023 and missed 90% of the season. So I just don't think this is something that they're going to be able to coach out of him because.
Well, and it's one thing to try and coach out of him, but like you said, put him in for an option play immediately. Surely just have him in shotgun and get that ball out quick. Get his hands on the ball, get him back into the game flow. Don't just have him run into contact immediately. I don't know, maybe Shane Steichen wants to get Joe Flacco in there and he needs a reason to do it. Just dive head first in, Anthony. You'll be fine, mate. Don't worry. Very weak because I really like Shane Steichen as a play caller, but that just immediately stood out as what is going on here? It just doesn't make sense.
Definitely not one. And on the flip side of it, the Steelers, that defense showed its first signs after being dominant for 3 weeks. It was a real bad day at the office for the Steelers defense.
It really was. And kind of out of nowhere, it felt like, because they have been good all season and the Colts offense hasn't been scary, but they just kept moving down the field at will, really. So, Steelers just couldn't contain them. 27 points given up. Not sure if that's a season high for the Steelers. It feels like it is.
Yeah.
And
considerably.
Yeah, I just felt like I had the Steelers on my ATS here. I got quite lucky because I backed them in the teaser in the end because I felt like the Texans line might get a bit closer than it should have been. So I actually covered on the +4. So I was like, oh yeah, the Steelers won in the end, didn't they? And I was like, oh, no, they did not. They actually blew the game. And it's weird because it came on what was probably Justin Fields' best game of the season as well.
Yeah, Justin Fields certainly looks like he's developing. I think there's a couple of things. He had 2 fumbles. One of them is particularly, that really just ran my hearts back to kind of the Bears games where he was trying to do too much, and it wasn't that desperate in the game to do that. Like, I know the defense weren't playing well, but you still got to kind of lean on him sometimes. How good they can be, and Pittsburgh kind of shot themselves in the foot. I think that was a particular bad play because they just got to midfield and looked like they were moving the ball. And George Pickens' fumble inside the 5-yard line was utterly ridiculous to not have that ball secure.
Yeah.
By the sideline like that, and ultimately you lose the game by 3. You can point to those things because, your points off the board from the Pickens one. I think the Colts were able to put 3 on the board from the Fields fumble, so that's the game for you there.
Yeah, absolutely. The Pickens one was wild. You just don't quite understand what he's doing. But
I just have it holding that ball so far out, and to fumble it inwards. Was that not to fumble it out of bounds? To fumble it. It was just an odd play. They did get him going. He had a big game, though. 7 receptions for 113 yards, heavily targeted as well, and a bit of support from Frymouth and Najee Harris in the passing game as well. Yeah, it was. This was one of the ones for the Steelers where I thought, if the Steelers are going to take the Steelers seriously and they're going to be a player in the AFC in the postseason, this is the kind of team, because the Colts have been awful.
Yeah.
This is the kind of team you need to steamroller.
This is just costing Mike Tomlin, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'd be underdogs against. I mean, it was Atlanta in week 1, which now looking back doesn't seem as crazy as it did then. But I'm going and give them a butt whooping. You finally come in as favourites in a game and have your shots pulled down by the Colts. It's just, what are you doing?
Steelers have got the Cowboys, so maybe that's a good get-right game for them in week 5.
So, sadly,
so we'll see how they get on against a very depleted Dallas Cowboys side. Steelers 3-1, Colts 2-2. Next up, the AFC West clash between the Chiefs and the Chargers. Chiefs finally prevailed in this one, 17-10 against the very game Chargers, who were talking about teams that were banged up. My God, with the Chargers missing some people, particularly, especially with Bosa, Derwin James defensively, and they really held in with the Chiefs. Eventually it was just Chiefs kind of outlasted them in a very attritional game to score in the fourth quarter and win it 17-10. Big news coming out of this one is Rashee Rice, who has been the Kansas City Chiefs offense through 3 weeks, banged up as a result of Patrick Mahomes, who took him out while trying to recover the interception fumble mess that happened early in the game. It looks like Rice is going to be out for a considerable period of time, given kind of the noises that we're hearing. Potential ACL tear. He didn't, he looked pretty rough on the sideline, like he knew he had suffered a big injury. But the Chiefs have struggled through, they're 4-0, but they've struggled through 4 weeks, particularly offensively. Yeah. Where does this leave the reigning champs moving forward?
Vulnerable, very vulnerable, I think. Because, I think we have to presume Rashee Rice out for the season at this point. Pacheco could well be out for the season. It doesn't sound great on him either. Travis Kelce had a bit of a bounce-back game yesterday. Got 7 catches, 89 yards. He needs to be Travis Kelce down the stretch if the Chiefs are going to three-peat. Because, you look at that pass-catching group, and I think I said this in our chat yesterday, Andy Reid needs to figure out how to unlock Xavier Worthy now. If, again, that offense is going to tick, because also Marquise Brown was brought in as free agent. He's not going to contribute all season. And you look at the pass catches they had yesterday after Rashee Rice is out. Kareem Hunt, 2 catches, 16 yards. Noah Gray, 4 for 40, not too bad. Justin Watson, Rashee Rice went and didn't have a catch in the game. Nicole Hardman was on there but didn't have a catch. Sky Moore, 2 targets, no catches. Carson Steele, 1 catch for no yards, 3 targets. I don't see Juju's name on there. I'm not sure if he was inactive or just didn't have a target. Juju's, the corpse of Juju at this point. I presume they'll be looking for a trade partner, maybe. I've seen so many people yesterday on Twitter, like Devontae Adams. It's like the Raiders ain't trading Devontae Adams in division, not to the Chiefs on a free beat. They would have to be wildly overpaying, and I don't think that. I mean, Devontae Adams is also injured, so I think you might.
Room either.
Yeah, I think you might be looking at somewhere like the Browns, maybe. Amari Cooper doesn't seem like a happy passenger there, so maybe Amari Cooper, maybe Elijah Moore at the Browns as well, who's a cheap option. But you see all these big names get linked, and it's like, well, it's not realistic. Again, they're not paying Devontae Adams, like you say. They don't have the room to do it, and the Raiders are not trading their best players to the Chiefs. They're just not. They'll eat the losses first. But yeah, of those names I listed, like, Javi Worthy got his touchdown yesterday, which was good to see. Good to see him get going a little more, but he's not getting certainly a huge amount of usage just yet. And I'm certainly not comparing those prospects, but you look at like how the Giants are using Malik Neighbors, for example, moving him all around the field to get him good matchups. And Javi Worthy isn't Malik Neighbors, but I also don't think hasn't been that need to do so yet. Where I think Worthy's going to have to take on a bigger role, and Andy Reid's going to have to make him a bigger role as well. Like he's going to have to scheme him that role open because the talent isn't there on the offense. Like I said, especially without Pacheco, like Carson Steele, Samaje Perine, and Kareem Hunt isn't that's up there with Dallas's running back room. Kareem Hunt was available when we signed Dalvin Cook. I don't think it was Kareem Hunt holding out for something better. I don't think Dallas wanted Kareem Hunt. And Patrick Mahomes doesn't look himself.
No, there was a couple of kind of a little bit in the second half where he made some plays. Obviously, the shot to Worthy, it was a great pass, but some of the plays he made with his feet as well, you kind of saw just when the game was kind of in key moments. I think that's the end of Carson Steele's off. I'm going to see him for a while as well. He just can't keep hold of the ball. So, I don't think while they're struggling offensively that the Chiefs are going to keep putting it in his hands. So I think we'll see an expanded role for Hunt and P. Ryan moving forward. Veteran guys and guys you can kind of trust a little bit more. While Carson Steele's story is great, obviously he's been making key mistakes in big moments. So you can't
allow it.
Yeah. But yeah, they just get skating by, aren't they, the Chiefs at the minute? And kind of, you felt would this game be a little bit different if the Chargers kind of were up to strength a little bit more? Because obviously it became a struggle for them without the two tackles as well to kind of consistently move the ball.
Yeah, I don't have his. Let me just have a quick look at what his numbers were in the game. Yeah, only 2 sacks, but Chris Jones felt like he was. If he wasn't getting a sack, he was causing a problem on roughly every other snap, it felt like. And again, I know he's not lined up on tackles very often, but just like that disrupted O-line, I think he was enjoying it, should we say. And I think he was key again down the stretch, just getting to Justin Herbert or just avoid almost getting Justin Herbert and rushing him to get passes off that he wasn't ready to throw. I think, with a better week of practice beforehand and a fully fit, you'd expect the Chargers to compete with this version of the Chiefs. I think Harbaugh's done a good tenure so far in his first 4 games. I don't think you can have too much complaints. It looks like a Jim Harbaugh team already. I think they have issues, obviously, as we kind of expected. The J.K. Dobbins hype train has slowed down, as has J.K. Dobbins pretty immediately. You're not going to play the Panthers every week or the Raiders every week. And, you consider what he's gone through injury-wise. To see him out there is kind of a blessing. And but he's not, he's not the guy who was drafted by the Ravens out of Ohio State and breaking away from runs. It's a real shame because he's had just brutal injury luck. But that's just who he is now. Gus Edwards is kind of the definition of a jag. He's not doing much. If he's not getting 2-yard touchdowns, you're not noticing him in like fantasy football, for example. It's the only reason anyone did notice him last year. McConkey looks really good. He kind of gets open at will-ish. Quentin Johnson, again, a bit of a back down to earth game, but not an ideal situation game either for Quentin Johnson. So I think the Chargers can be okay with this one. Yeah, they lost by a touchdown in the end, but I don't think, week 4 of Jim Harbaugh's first year is when we're going to judge them. And I think they're kind of fine. I think the Chiefs, though, it's going to be ride the defense and try and get something going on offense as soon as possible. They're 4-0 right now. I think they're still going to, not going to say walk to that division title, but I'd still be happy betting on them if I got even money. I'm not going to get even money, obviously. But, the three-peat looks a step further away again, because this team, it's hard to imagine, can stand up to your Baltimore and Buffaloes in back-to-back weeks in January, as they are now.
Let's play this clip in the week in the build-up to the Super Bowl when
they're
there
again.
When they're there again, and we've all written them off. But I'm not as comfortable and confident as I am in my pick of the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. But look, the slip's in. I'm sure I'll get a better price on them now, to be honest, to try and win the Super Bowl. So it might be worth just keeping going, as it goes. But you know what? We talked about them last season. They were dropping games and playing, not as bad as this, I don't think. And the 4-0.
They are still favourites for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
500, you can get them now.
I guess 5.5 to 1, so was where we're at. So yeah, it's dropped off. But yeah, they're winning games of 4-0, and they're playing worse than they did last year when they were dropping games. So We'll see. Long way to go. Chiefs 4-0, Chargers at 2-2, and sticking in the AFC again, another potential game that we'll see in January. Bills, Ravens on Sunday Night Football, and the Ravens absolutely killed them, 35-10. The Ravens just they opened the door a little bit at the start of the third quarter, but and you were kind of thinking, oh, mate,
here we go again.
Here we go again with the Ravens, but no, they didn't. They just slammed the door straight into the Bills' face, and the Bills kind of have had a big drop off. Had a big drop off on Sunday night compared to where they've been in the first 3 weeks of the season.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, this was again, I highlighted this on our preview show. Like, it just feels like a trap. Plus 2.5 on the Bills, who've been so good through 3 weeks, especially weeks 2 and 3, where they absolutely destroyed the Dolphins, absolutely destroyed the Jaguars. And, the Ravens have looked shaky. They beat up on what I think is a bad Cowboys team. They lost to the Raiders. They lost to the Chiefs in, again, a game I don't think was as close as the scoreline indicated. But yeah, yesterday, last night, Sunday Night Football, I mean, it started with a, big boy beatdown, and it kind of just was that for the rest of certainly the first half, and for the majority of the game. It was one of them where, you can watch the highlights and you're not going to see, Ryan Williams spin catches and OBJ one-handers and all the rest of it. But what you're going to see is a defensive line that I had real concerns about, just playing bully ball, and Derrick Henry looking like prime Derrick Henry, just running away from defensive backs. I kind of had a thought of Antonio Pierce when I was watching DeMar Hamlin and the other safety trying to catch up to Derrick Henry of business decisions, is it? But I don't think they actually were making business decisions, because it's not like they were facing him head on. They were trying to catch him up. But it's just magnificent that Derrick Henry weighs whatever he weighs, and he's basically hitting the same top speed minus a tiny bit of Xavier Worthy, who weighs about 100 pounds less. It is magnificent. It's exactly what we want to see Derrick Henry do in Baltimore. Like I said, I had concerns about the offensive line. I still do to a degree, but I think if they're just going to run downhill and plow at you and churn the ball and churn you over, then they can do that a lot easier than they can pass block. So, yeah, long may it continue, because it's a bit of a throwback. And the way the NFL has been this year, I think more teams are going to have to try and do this, because the passing game hasn't been it was a bit of a comeback this week for it, to be fair, but the first 3 weeks has been if you can run the ball, you're probably going to do pretty well. And yeah, when you've got Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and maybe a better running O-line than a passing O-line, then Baltimore are certainly well set for it. Ended up being 35-10. And I don't think that was flattering to the Ravens. I think, again, it's kind of the complete opposite of Monday for the Bills, where, they were playing Mr. Brightside and having the sing-along and all the rest of it against Jacksonville. And yeah, can't think of a killer's pun for Mr. Brightside, but yeah, certainly went to have I was just going to go, heaven knows they're miserable now, but that's the Smiths, not the Killers. Last night against the Ravens, in a game I did not see coming.
But yeah, I mean, Henry was unreal. I think they found something with this offensive line now. I think they had a little bit of a confidence booster against Cowboys the week before. Were able to sort some things out. And this is how you need to use Derrick Henry, and this is how you set up your O-line for it. I think they will maybe try to do a little bit too much the first couple of weeks, and it's just no, this is what we brought Henry in for. Let's lean on him. That Harbaugh going, we don't want to use him 25 times a game. Use him 25 times a game in games where you need to.
Yeah.
And you're just going to kill teams. He was absolutely phenomenal. 24 carries for 199 yards and that touchdown. Also is that 87-yard rush, which was the first offensive play for Baltimore of the game, was the Ravens' all-time longest rush.
Yeah,
87 yards. So yeah, not messing about. And Henry's rolling. It's, we kind of, some people are thinking maybe, obviously, especially given his age, he might be, for a running back, might be a little bit finished or whatever. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. He's up to close to 500 yards already. I think he's averaging 120 yards a game so far. 20 carries a game, 5 touchdowns. So yeah, I mean, carries on like this, he's gonna waltz away with a rushing title. For sure. But yeah, maybe slow him down a bit later in the year and save some carries for the postseason. But yeah, just phenomenal stuff from the Ravens. And yeah, for the Bills, I was real disappointed in the Bills in terms of they got themselves back into the game at 21-10 early in the third quarter. They score a touchdown, get the stop, get the ball to halfway. And then that gadget trick play, which was just a mess. You were in the game.
We were just talking last week about obviously they got Joe Brady in and got rid of whoever it was the OC last year. I forget his name, doesn't matter. And like what they've been doing is real just simple football. Let Josh Allen just go out and play, run the ball heavily. And then, like you say, they're in position to, if they get a touchdown on this drive, it's like, oh, game on now. And Baltimore, it's all in their head. They've been, with Dallas last week, nearly threw that one away. The way Buffalo have been playing, you think, oh, they're going to push on. And instead, like you say, it's weird trickeration. Josh Allen's got some kind of strapping on his hand because he's obviously got an injury. And just why? I just did not understand it.
Situation didn't call for it. Like you were past, I think it was they were at the Baltimore 44-yard line. They were past halfway. You kind of, worst, you're getting into position to get some points. It was just bizarre, and then it just snowballed from there. In terms of that, was it? The offense wasn't really able to do anything from that point. It was just a bizarre decision. At no point should you be fucking lining up Josh Allen at wide receiver. Just an odd thing to do. And you can see that coming a mile off. Once that happens, it's like, well, it was real easy for Baltimore to defend. Bizarre choice. Bills dropped to 3-1. Ravens get to 500. 2-2, and they look like they're rolling now. The Ravens, big game against the Bengals.
A big couple of weeks for Baltimore because they were 0-2 after that Raiders loss, and you think, oh, wheels might come off here. Lose one of these 2 games coming up. I mean, Dallas again. I thought Ravens would win because I just don't trust Dallas this year, especially not now. They're so banged up. But I mean, they could have lost it. They came close to doing it. It wouldn't have been a huge stunner if they did. And this one, like I said, Bills is a big favorite in this game. Could easily be at 1-3.
Yeah.
And 2-2 feels it's only one game, but it feels a lot better. And like you said, Sunday coming up, into Cincy.
Huge opportunity to land a massive blow against the Bengals, and the Bills are at the Texans in what should hopefully be a quite fun game as well. Bets on this one for us, I was on the Bills plus 2.5. It was a disaster for all of us, really. I was on Bills plus 2.5. You're on Cook, 100 combined yards. We fell short. You took Bills at minus 6.5 as well, at the plus 285. Joe was on Lamar and Josh Allen bet. So anytime touchdown as a parlay didn't hit, and both over 50 rushing yards, which didn't hit as well. So bit of a stinker for us on Sunday Night Football. That's our 4 games reviewed. We're going to have a drop into our FourFold Challenge. It doesn't really get any better in terms of how we've been rolling. Our FourFold. So just a reminder, we take a favourite, an underdog, an over and under from the slate. That's the challenge. And none of us have got close at any point so far this season. 2-2 is the best it's got. So we're gonna start hitting these, I'm sure. We'll start with my card. Actually, we've already talked. I took the under of Colts Steelers, so the Steelers shafted me twice. Bet on the Steelers and also back the under and they screwed me. So yeah, under 40, massively over. That was me. One's couple I hit, I suppose, Commanders Cardinals. Cardinals disappointed again in a spot where we thought this was going to be a real fun game. But the Commanders, on a short week after playing Monday, heading out west, delivered again. And Jaden Daniels is unfucking believable.
Jaden Daniels has led more scoring drives than he has incomplete passes in 4 games. 23 scoring drives, 19 incompletions. He is... And again, I'm going to give props here. We criticize ourselves, I think, more than any other podcast probably does when we get things wrong. You were very high on Jaden Daniels coming in. I was really excited, but you were really high on him as a prospect. I think you even said you'd take him over Caleb Williams.
I thought it should have gone 1, yeah. I really do.
And I'm certainly not burying Caleb Williams because he's improving, but... Jaden Daniels, if you're a dynasty fantasy player, I'm not sure if there's a quarterback you take over Jaden Daniels today. It's funny, there's been a bit of an argument recently on Twitter of would you take Patrick Mahomes over Jaden Daniels in dynasty? And I would say give me Jaden Daniels by a bucket because he, this isn't, he's putting up stats comparable with the 07 Patriots, Randy Moss, etc. With the Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Chiefs. He's got the best 4-game start to any NFL quarterback's career. I think he's got one of the most accurate 4-game spans, period, of any NFL quarterback. Not first 4 games or not first 4 games to a season. 4 games of any part of any season. Yes, there will be a downside coming at some point. He's not going to be perfect his entire career. But if you can do this in the first 4 games with Alameda Zacchaeus, Noah Brown, Ben Sinnott, Zach Ertz. Terry McLaurin's a really good wide receiver, but Terry McLaurin ain't Tyreek Hill.
He's not stacked offensive kind of
by any distance. Austin Eckler missing this week, and Jerry McNichols comes in and gets 2 touchdowns. Cliff Kingsbury was kind of a laughing stock when he got this OC job, and I still don't really fully believe in Cliff Kingsbury, I will say. Just the fact he's lining Terry McLaurin up all around the field rather than just on the left-hand side like he used to do with DeAndre Hopkins in Arizona means to me he's made some progress. But this is Jaden Daniels' rocket ship, period. This isn't Cliff Kingsbury scheming him up like, we've seen Sean McVay do, we've seen Matt LaFleur do with Malik Willis, etc. This is Jaden Daniels' rocket ship, strap in and be grateful it's not in your division if you're not a Cowboys fan, for example. Washington are due a superstar, I guess, because it's been a long time, and it's nice to see they didn't have him with Dan Snyder there, because fuck Dan Snyder. But, he break out on Monday Night Football, and then just another... He's a real deal. It's really... Like I say, it kind of sucks as a Cowboys fan that he's in the division, but I'm not that selfish to, begrudge anybody that. It's great to have another, superstar quarterback already in the NFL, and Jaden Daniels really, really looks it.
Yeah, just it felt, incredibly impressive. It was almost a shock when he threw that pick to end the run of the scoring drives. But phenomenal stuff. And yes, real spreading it about as well. We had, we stacked Commanders in our Fantasy Gameday team. Didn't quite work out for us. I think we were on the right path though. Zacchaeus and McNichols, who was in for Eckler. Tremendous stuff. Brian Robinson, I think, what thought was really impressive again on the ground.
Yeah.
A great win for Washington. Another underdog win. They're fairly big. I say big favorite. They're 3.5-point favorites against the Browns next week. That could be a letdown spot. All of a sudden. So, be careful. Already in that up of going, oh, maybe I should back the Browns there just because it's the way the NFL works, right? As a way coming and smacking you in the mouth. So, phenomenal stuff from the Commanders. Great job, Dan Quinn. Cliff Kingsbury, well done as well so far, and real good. The Cardinals, I've been real disappointed in them the last 2 weeks. Tough game against the Lions because the Lions are good, but I thought they'd be real. I backed them on ATS. I backed the over here, which was nice, of course, on the FourFold, but I thought the Cardinals would offer a lot more. Outside of James Conner and a bit Marvin Harrison early, it was a struggle for them offensively.
It really was, yeah. I mean, obviously, I had Trey McBride missing, but yeah, nobody else showed up. I thought Michael Wilson would have a good game, and he kind of didn't even catch half his balls, didn't crack 50 yards. Greg Dortch was a PPR guy again, 4 for 30 yards. Just, yeah, not much going. And Kyler Murray, I think, kind of underwhelmed. Didn't have huge pass volume, 22 attempts only, but 16 to 22 for 142 and a touchdown. Just, Jane Daniels is now the superstar here in the quarterbacks, and all the early season hype on Kyler Murray seems to have fizzled away, truthfully. So, yeah, I'm not sure what the Cardinals are going to do to get things back on track. Defense, I think, was always a worry, but we kind of thought that alongside that we'd have a really explosive offense, and right now it just feels like we've got a bad defense.
Yeah, it doesn't get any easy for the Cardinals. They're on the road to San Francisco next week at 1-3, and Commanders, as mentioned, are at home to the Browns. As a favourite, it'd be interesting to see what Jane Daniels can do against Cleveland. Speaking of Cleveland, my favourite, I took the Raiders against the Cleveland Browns. I mentioned this in our group while we were watching the games on Sunday, but nothing more I love seeing than multiple defensive linemen smash into Deshaun Watson. It's just every time I see it, it doesn't get any, I don't lose any of the joy from it. It is tremendous. I will say though, Deshaun did play better.
He did.
He was not the reason the Cleveland Browns lost this game.
No, I think Amari Cooper can hold his hand up a little. Who seemed to be playing with like rubber gloves on or something. I'm not sure what was going on there, or like bouncy gloves. Because was that him on the interception?
He just fired off him. A perfectly thrown ball, and
a really good thrown ball. Yeah, I don't know quite what was going on with Amari because he's had an okay start to the season as well. I thought he'd have a good game here, and a revenge game from being traded away all them years ago. But yeah, he had a poor effort, and I think maybe the first one this season of a player scored a touchdown, an offensive player that I've never heard of, Blake Whiteheart. Come on down. Who was, I think, the Titans 7 on the week, which really tells you how bad tight ends have been in fantasy. That Blake Whiteheart is a tight end 1 on the week, who I've literally never heard of.
Yeah, it was a rough one for Cleveland. I think the defense, it was the number 1 defense last year, showed vulnerabilities on the road, struggled. The Raiders found a run game that they haven't had through the first 3 weeks. They just couldn't move the ball at all on the ground, and all of a sudden, everybody was running. Madison was running. Zamir White was running to the tune of 152 yards as a team. And
Brock Bowers had an end around.
But Brock Bowers had an end around, which is very interesting. But yeah, I think they had 7 people that had a rush, including TJ Turner and Trey Tucker, who ran a couple in. I don't know if Antonio Pierce is just going to take this out of Gardner Minshew's hand now and just. Minshew was terrible, to be fair, as well. But I think they're going to run it, and I don't think it's going to be too long, even though they won before we see Aiden O'Connell.
Agree, yeah. And again, we didn't think this would be coming into the season. Gardner Minshew wasn't going to be starting 17 games. So, and when AOC gets in, I don't think it'll be too long before we see Gardner Minshew again. So,
yeah. So, pretty terrible game all around. But, Raiders win 20-16, go to 2-2. Browns fall to 1-3. The noise in Cleveland is getting real loud. Something's going to have to give at some point, and a decision's going to be made, isn't it, between the quarterback and the head coach? Because that's just it's going to have to be one.
Yeah, I didn't see anything come out of this after the game, and I didn't track it during the game itself. But it seemed to be some argument between like Winston and Watson. Did you catch this on Red Zone?
No.
There seemed to be some kind of to-do or some kind of argument on the sideline, and Winston.
I thought it was between Watson and an old lineman. I think maybe it was.
But Winston got. Yeah, and it just seeing James get in there. That like, again, I can't remember who it was who highlighted this in the off season, but like when you see I think it might be Mark Sester actually hate the call of like. When you see all like the rah-rah videos of like getting the teammates up for preseason games and in the locker room, and it's always Jameis. You never see Deshaun Watson doing any of this stuff. And again, that kind of leads to like, well, who do they see as a leader there? probably not Deshaun Watson. If the team doesn't want to highlight him, it's either that they don't want to show that he's doing it, which will be weird because whatever we think of him as a person, the team have him as their quarterback. Like, the social media isn't excluding him because he's a sex pest. Like, they're just not. So does he just not do it? And if so, like, it's kind of weird that your quarterback doesn't involve himself in, like, what I'm calling the rah-rah stuff. And Jameis is very rah-rah, and that is kind of how he is. So, yeah, I completely agree. Like, feels like something's coming soon. And I'm sure if Deshaun Watson was asked about that disagreement, he would have just called it general football stuff. But as with everything with Deshaun Watson, like, there is a heavier thing carried around with it because he's Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, he's just a dick. There was a bit in his pre-game press conference. He is like, ask him about. He was asked about maybe is he asked to have more designed runs put into the offense.
I'm not a running back.
And that, what he was saying is perfectly fine to say. Like, no, I'm a quarterback. I'm not running back. So, but the way he's just a dick. Like, just the way.
And like, again, I think a lot of running quarterbacks would say in that situation, like, whatever it takes to win.
Yes, yeah, that's all you needed to say. Yeah, we'll do whatever it takes to win.
Whereas, like, again, he's just so dismissive and so arrogant, and those are probably the most polite things you can say about him. So maybe,
he's just an absolute dick. Rams, Bears. I was on the Rams as my underdog +3. I fell into the trap. Bears win this one by 6, 24-18. Speaking of somebody getting a running game going, the Chicago Bears got their running game going. DeAndre Swift went off. I think he had 180 total yards, 93 on the ground, 70 odd through the air, and a touchdown. We saw a bit of Rashard Johnson tickling the goal line. Yeah, they just took so much pressure off Caleb.
Yeah, I don't know what happened here. I mean, I guess going up against his beat Rams helps an awful lot, but this is what I expected of DeAndre Swift week one. One of my first, my week one bets was DeAndre Swift receiving ladder at such great prices because, like, he's not between the tackles runner. You just need to get him in space and get him the ball, and he's really good. And they haven't done that. And then last week, it came out that they're going to turn the ball over to Rashawn Johnson, and he's going to be the RB going forward. And it's like, okay, well, the DeAndre Swift thing's over, I guess. They paid so much money for him. And, I mean, they could have went not much further and got Saquon Barkley, and that's how heavy they went on DeAndre Swift. And, 4 weeks into the season, they finally realised that he's not between the tackles runner, and if you can get him in space and get the ball in his hands, he's an explosive weapon. I didn't really think that needed talk to an offensive coordinator or a GM who pays him, $10 million a year. But good to see it finally clicked. And, Caleb Williams, less volume this week by a lot compared to how it was against the Colts, less than half. But I think he looked pretty good. I don't think he looked perfect again by any means, but kind of just functional, kept the turning chains over, keep it going. Wasn't a comfortable win, I wouldn't say, for the Bears in the end, but comfortable enough for how the Bears have played, I think.
Yeah, the Rams were hanging around, but the Rams they're just so shot in terms of injuries. They need guys back desperately. That whole line struggling. I mean, Matt Stafford's throwing, some good numbers, but Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, DeMarcus Robinson, they need players back. It's just a grind for them. Kind of feel they need to try and they need to try and pick up wins, but I feel they're going to need to pick up another 1 or 2 wins while they're banged up. And I think they can still, they've still got Stafford, so they can still do it. But it's just tough. They've got the Packers next week. It's just tough for the Rams, and I know they had a real good run back end of last season to make the playoffs. It feels like they're going to have to kind of pull some of that magic out again to do it because this might just get away from them.
Yeah, I think it's more likely they end up with a top 10 pick at this point than a playoff spot. Puka Nacua is still a month away. Jay Glazer came out and reported yesterday. Cooper Kupp is still at least 2 weeks away, I think he said, from coming back as well. Yeah, I don't see it ending anytime soon for them. They're just too banged up. You're playing with your hand behind your back, essentially. Sean McVay can scheme out a win, I think, against anybody. But when you're this short-handed, I think it's just hard to do week to week. And, we've seen that. They got that huge win against the 49ers, who were also banged up. But, it's just tough to see them getting many back-to-back ones. I was really surprised Blake Corum's still not trusted to come into the games yet. I know this game was still in hand, so I can see, you keep pounding Kyron while he's there, but I thought you'd maybe try and get Blake Corum a bit involved. I'm not sure what's going on with him. But when it's solo on weapons, I thought wouldn't hurt to try and get him some touches, but maybe it will hurt to get him some touches. They know better than me, I guess.
Yeah, Rams dropped to 1-3. Chicago at 2-2, and might be able to start moving forward. They've got the Panthers next week, so could get to plus, to over 500. Rams mentioned we've got the Packers in week 5. Next up, you were on the under 4 Saints Falcons, Byron, to start your fourfold. The second, there was a huge period of the second half where it was real low scoring, but Saints hit the over when they scored a touchdown late on before the Falcons went up the other end and nailed the winning field goal from Younghoe Koo from 58, I think it was.
It was, yeah. He's a good
58 to win it, which I think was the longest of his career to do it. Kind of started off real quick, this one. It looked like it was going to hit the over a lot quicker than it did. The Falcons prevailed 26-24. What did you make of this? We had the game, so Jenny had it on the second screen. We were watching it. I think both teams look pretty poor, to be honest, I thought, in this one.
Totally agree, yeah. Both teams missing all linemen, which I think kind of ruined to some degree the flow of the game. Taysom Hill got him with his 2 touchdowns because, of course, he did.
It was a big miss. He went out, didn't he? Injured in the second, I think it was late first half or early second, because he was clearly a huge part of the game plan.
Yeah, and it's always one of the funnier things to me when I see this on, the fantasy weekly leaders, etc. Taysom Hill was a tight end 1 on the week, and he didn't have a target. I don't know how these things. I mean, it's because the Saints call him a tight end. The fantasy sites put him as a tight end, so it's not really the fantasy site to blame. But this is the 7th year in a row that Taysom Hill has more carries and targets, and he just keeps getting listed as a tight end on fantasy sites. It's a very peculiar situation. Once again, he is a tight end 1 on the week, barring some Monday night shenanigans. He literally doesn't have a target. So I'm not sure how I don't know how they keep calling him a tight end, but they do. So they do, I guess. Rashid Shaheed, I felt, had a real good game, bar his suicidal punt return attempt kind of over his shoulder on the 2-yard line, 3-yard line.
It's 2 or 3-yard line. I couldn't believe it when I seen it.
I have no idea what he was thinking. Just let it bounce, Rashid.
He was in the what are you gonna do? Are you gonna try and return it from there? What are you gonna do? Like, you were getting blown up if he did catch it anyway.
Yeah, and I mean that's a game. Essentially, I don't mean that ended up being the game, but then 6 points are huge. You just let that ball bounce and get the ball on the 25-yard line, then the Saints probably win the game. He did have a good game as a receiver, which was really pleased to see because he's been very boom bust to start the year. He actually went no crazy deep plays, 8 for 11 for 80 yards. Looked like a good actual wide receiver. Olave made it through after his hamstring concerns. But it was just a real scrappy game. And, Bijan Robinson went 4 yards a carry, 7 for 28. He got a bit better on the ground, 10 yards in the air, 10 yards per reception. Kyle Pitts had nothing going, had 3 targets, 0 catches. And, you watch each of them targets and he doesn't look interested. He looks like he's kind of running through muck. He's just not going. And Drake London caught 50% of his balls for 60 yards, 6 out of 12. Cousins doesn't look right. He looked better against Philadelphia, but last night with no line, he looked really sluggish. And this felt like this felt like the Saints Falcons game from the last 2 or 3 years where both teams have been pretty poor. So after a bright start for the Saints, it looks like we're kind of back in the mire a little bit. I hope when the line gets better, it will improve again. But, not many teams make it through the season uninjured. So,
Falcons pinch this one at the end. Both teams at 2-2 now, and behind the Bucs in that NFC South. Your underdog we've talked about was the Buffalo Bills. The Bills at the Ravens. Bengals get off the schneid. beat the Carolina Panthers 34-24. For a brief period, this looked like it was going to get out of hand, and we were all over the Bengals for Fantasy Gameday, but it didn't quite work out. But yeah, Bengals just look so much better, just generally. Panthers maybe were a step down last week. Dalton going back to Cincinnati again, but yeah, just a lot more balance from the Bengals. On the ground, in particular, Chase Brown, who's one of our Fantasy Gameday players, had a fantastic game. He looks like he's going to take over, I think, as the RB1 for Moss. I think he just seems to be a lot more involved.
It reminds me of Pollard Zeke when, obviously, it doesn't have the history of it, but it just feels like you're looking at it going like, yeah, Moss is fine as like a plodding back and like a professional running back who will get you he'll get you what's there every week. And Brown looks like he's got that explosiveness, and he might not be as good as in Pass Pro, and he might not be as solid as a pair of hands. But I would always want my team to go with the Pollard, to go with the Chase Brown, to go with the guy who can just run for a touchdown from anywhere, can make someone miss. I think that's what wins your game ultimately. Whereas like your Zach Mosses might not lose you a game. So I'll see Chase Brown get running because I think he's a much better fit for this offense.
Yeah, we saw Chase with the big 63-yard touchdown, where a lot of yards after the catch. And T. Higgins looked a lot better. Obviously, he's had a lot of time out and looked a lot better. Again, he just feels like he opens up the Chase so much, and that offense just is a lot freer as a result. So, yeah, Bengals needed this one, 1-3. Panthers, I think there's enough to say, like, I was worried in this one they'd get an absolute tanking and then they'd just maybe completely drop off. But they were frisky enough in this one.
Yeah. I mean, again, this wasn't happening with Bryce Young at the wheel, so further justifies the decision. Jamie Leggett had a good game, I felt like. And Deontay Johnson, in fact, both of them kind of got going. I think that's still gets kind of breakout game, 6 for 66 and a touchdown. Deontay Johnson, 783 and a touchdown. I don't think either of those were happening with Bryce Young, so I think it further justifies the decision. You're not going to expect him to win every week because that's frankly insane. That's not going to happen. If they win 5 games all season, it'll be a success. So just showing competency and signs of life, I think, is a big improvement for them. And Chuba Hubbard over 100 yards on the ground again.
Yeah, had a real good game. Chuba Hubbard, I was very impressed with his day's work for sure. So yeah, reasons to still be relatively cheerful for Carolina. I think they're still going to be, or they're going to be in games at least. They've got the Bears next week, so they'll be 4-point having the 4-point underdogs as it stands away to the Bears. Strange things have happened. Your favorite was the Texans, and while they won the game late on, they didn't cover. The Texans are not looking good.
Not looking good enough, certainly, yeah. They've kind of looked fine, which isn't good enough. I was surprised the Jags put up so much of a fight in this game, considering what they were last week. But, yeah, I was a little underwhelmed with the Texans. Just, again, getting by, and especially coming off that Minnesota win, I thought they'd bounce back in style. I didn't expect was it 24 in the end they got to? 24-20. I just kind of thought they'd put a good stink on and, give a kick into the Jaguars, maybe get, 40 points here, maybe, 37-40, something like that. And again, it was just kind of like, what can we do to just get by here rather than going out the way to get a big win? I know they are down Joe Mixon, they are down Tank Dell. Both things do matter, but, Nico Collins continues to shine. I feel like I have to mention him every week because he's just a total dog. 150 and a touchdown again on 12 catches. Diggs got going with a rushing touchdown, which I don't know how many he's had in his career. It doesn't feel like many. That was a nice little surprise to see. But yeah, it feels like Texans like just doing enough, which, a win's a win, isn't it? Obviously, but certainly not impressive like they were. It felt like this time last year.
Yeah. Did feel the Jaguars took a step forwards. Obviously, they bounced back from the demolition that they got handed by the Bills on Monday Night Football of Week 3. But very similar to the Miami game, just couldn't close it out. And this could be a team that's 2-2 and very different. It's a very different vibe. Doug Peterson looks like he's checked out. He looks like he's done in that post-game press conference. He completely
I forget what the question was. But he was just like, oh yeah, it's something to consider. I can't remember what he was asked. And he like kind of like rolled his eyes and was like, is that everything? And just like walked out and was like, you don't look you're not looking great, Nick, mate. So
I know obviously they've got one more game and then it's the trip to London. They've got the Colts at home next week. The Jaguars are favourites for that game. The 2.5-point favourites for that game as it stands. And then they've got 2 weeks in London. Maybe the 2 weeks in London is what they need.
Yeah, they need something. And you wouldn't be surprised to see him beat the Colts, to be fair. Because that Colts defense isn't great. And depending on who we get a quarterback for the Colts, both of them have their weaknesses. Joe Flacco obviously has played really well the last year, but he's not perfect, obviously. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Jags win. It's just one of them where, like, I'd kind of be. I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised to see the Jags win. It's one of them I'd kind of be surprised to see either team win, though. Like,
tie.
It could well be the tie of the year. Yeah,
we've not had a tie for so long.
Yeah, it could be a bet.
But the Jags. So when I said if I ever bet on the Jags as favourites again, you have to stop me and stop. You have to grab me and stop me.
Yeah.
If they are still favourites for that game this week, I'm going to bet the Jags because that makes no sense. The line makes.
I think if you caveat with it makes no sense, I think you're kind of putting your own thing in there, so you're fine.
Yeah,
we'll allow it.
Yeah, and apologies to Joe in this one because for his touchdown parlay, I put Brian Robinson Jr. on the graphic, although he bet Brian Thomas Jr., both which scored. But he looked very impressive again, Brian Thomas Jr. One bright spot for the Jaguars.
He did, yeah, I really like him. 6 for 86 and a touchdown. He is, they're getting him involved, certainly. But yeah, he looks really good already. Yeah.
So your FourFold was 1 and 3. Not really got it going yet, have we? Joe has had a little bit of a better week. So he was on the Bengals as his favourite, -4.5. He was on his Saints. The Saints as his underdog, +1.5. Although we got to +3 by the time the game kicked off, which would have been enough to cover. But sadly, that's not how FourFold works. He's unders on the Monday night game, Titans, Dolphins. So we'll see if that comes in. And he hit the over on Saints and Falcons at least. Keg, our Carolina Panthers pal and guest, he had the Niners as his favourite. Comfortable 30-13 win over the Patriots. Niners go to 2-2. Yeah, pretty comfortable day at the office, I think, for the Niners. Just talking about the Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson, who we thought was going to be such a huge part of this offense to get things going, he's becoming an absolute liability. That's 4 straight games with a fumble.
Yeah, it's certainly unexpected. I'm not sure what's working for the Patriots right now. It doesn't feel like much, though, does it?
No,
the
noise for Drake May is getting louder and louder. But I mean, Brissett got sacked 6 times, and I know this was against the Niners, and poor Nick Bosa wouldn't leave the poor fella alone all day long. You can't put Drake May in there; he's just going to get killed.
Yeah.
This is why you're paying Jacoby Brissett $8 million.
Yep.
To take this beating.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly pleasant, but again, that's why you have a veteran in there to get through the year and hope that it's better when you have your rookie come in next year or later this year.
Yeah. I will say one bright spot for the Patriots is the return of Christian Gonzalez. So he got hurt relatively early into 2023. He just seems to lock down. He goes one-on-one versus the other team's top, wide receiver one and locks them down.
Yeah.
Real impressive. I think obviously his development continues. Debo was back for the Niners. Wasn't involved too much. I don't think he had 3 grabs for 58. But the 1 touchdown pass Brock Purdy have, George Kittle in a sea of Patriots making that catch.
A really good one. Yeah, that was really fun to see. I've said in our chat yesterday, it's kind of a shame that George Kittle's so good all around because we don't get enough of him as a catcher. I know 49ers fans are happy with him doing everything, but just as a neutral, is really fun to watch when he just like gets into catches and gets into downfield and 3-on-1, no problem. I'll just dive up and get it myself. Really fun to see.
Phenomenal. And the other, I suppose, last thing on this one, Fred Warner's pick six was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's another one who maybe is a potential DPOY for, because he's had a couple of noticeable plays this year that always get people noticing. So that was a really good one.
Yeah, phenomenal stuff. Niners back to 500, 2-2 at home to the Cardinals, and the Patriots 1-3. I still can't believe they won that game against the Bengals in week 1. Are the Patriots off this week? Oh no, Patriots are home to the Dolphins, so who knows? Could get a win there. Next up, Keg had he had his Panthers as the underdog. Sadly, didn't cover and got beat. Chiefs Chargers was his over. Sadly, that didn't hit. And his under, which he did hit, so he also went 2-2, was Cowboys Giants. This was a struggle to watch on. This was a struggle of a watch on Thursday night. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was rough sledding. We all lost. I think we all backed the Cowboys on the ATS, right? And,
we all backed the Cowboys on the ATS. I also backed the Cowboys -5.5. So, and as much as I love him, fuck Brandon Aubrey.
Yeah, a 2015 total, so 35 points. Giants once again didn't find the end zone. They didn't have a kicker this week though, so they hit all 5 field goals. And I thought we'd be heading for the over on this one as well when CD had his early touchdown. I backed CD Lamb to get 2 touchdowns in this game. I thought he'd have a bounce back, and he was fine enough. But it was one of them again. It just kind of felt like it was in hand, and Dallas didn't want to put the foot down and really push it. But I mean, that's not really the story coming out of the game, is it? It's Dallas no longer have a defense.
Yeah, injuries galore for the Cowboys. Parsons, Lawrence, Diggs left the game, came back in. They're real banged up and primed for the Steelers to run all over them on Sunday. So that should be fun. As this was the Thursday game, plenty of bets from us. So you mentioned Byron Lamb 2+ T touchdowns. Sadly didn't come in. Joe hit both of his though. He had Dak's longest completion over 40 yards. The touchdown to CD was 55, so he cashed that at +110. And then Lamb and Neighbours both over 6 receptions at +280. So some good came from it. Should the Giants be buoyed by how Daniel Jones played? Because he did play pretty well. That's 2 weeks in a row. He's played decent football now.
Yeah, I think so. Probably considering who he is, I guess, and what he's been and what he's had to work with his entire career. It's just tough because, like, if this is the standard come the end of the year, what do you do?
I mean, they had no running game on Thursday as well, so it was all on Jones.
Singletary was.
They ran 24 carries for 26 yards. 1 point. So that was a good improvement for the Cowboys. Rushing defense, at least. That'll sway the numbers back.
Yeah, just need to play the Giants O-line and Devin Singletary every week. So, it'll be interesting to see how Daniel Jones is, give it another 4 weeks and see how he's doing. Because, in fairness to him, he's never had a wide receiver. Saquon Barkley's an okay pass. I know he's a good pass catching running back, but he's a running back. He's not a wide receiver that you can center your entire offense around. So yeah, I think does Daniel Jones keep improving? The struggle is getting in the end zone, obviously. That'll need to improve, but after the hiding he got from his own fans earlier in the season, I'm kind of pleased to see Daniel Jones showing something. Because again, he doesn't seem like a bad guy. He just seems like he might not be a franchise quarterback, which isn't exactly a crime. It's just he didn't choose to get pick 6 overall. He didn't choose to have the Giants pay him as much money as they paid him. He's doing the best for himself, and who wouldn't? I will shout out my own, as we're doing a weekly tracker on it at this point. Malik Neighbours leads the league in receptions by 5 at this point. So 75-1 to lead the lead in receptions at the start of the season. So let's keep that up, Malik. Do not get injured. I know you've got a concussion to end the game, but hopefully you're fine. He said he was fine, so I believe.
Yeah, I think he's going to be fine. Also, for that bet of yours, he's just had one of his biggest competitors for that knocked out because Rice is going to miss a huge chunk of time.
Yeah. So yeah, now the number 2 is Nico Collins. Rashee Rice was leading going into this week with 22, I believe. But yeah, he's on 24 and out for the season. So yeah. Wheels up for Malik.
Yeah, phenomenal stuff from Neighbours. So that was Thursday night at MetLife in the Meadowlands. The New York football fans didn't see their team score a touchdown. On to Sunday at the Meadowlands, and the New York football fans didn't see their team score a touchdown. We'll just touch on this as part of our ATS picks because we've talked about all the other games where we were at. You were the only one riding on the Broncos at +7.5, and they won the game outright. It was a horrible game, partly due to kind of some awful weather in New York. It was just belting down the entire game. But this was a moment where, for me, I was been huge on the Jets going into this year. This was a take care of business, 3-1. The Jets can start rolling. But no, Aaron Rodgers gets beat by Bo Nix.
Yeah, it felt like Aaron Rodgers and Bo Nix got beat by the weather, like you say. But yeah, and what was the final score here? 10-9, right? It was
10-9 to the Broncos. Yeah, I mean,
classic ugly game. I mean, that Broncos defense always legit. I didn't think they were going to be this good coming into the year. But yeah, they really look good.
Yeah, the Broncos. There was Bo Nix was at -7 yards for so long, passing yards for so long of this game. He finished 12 for 25 for 60, and Cortland Sutton had 3 for 60.
Yeah, wild stat line. Yeah, Tyler Beatty ended up with 2 catches for -4 yards. Troy Franklin ended up with 2 catches for -2 yards. Odd stat line. Speaking of odd stat lines, Breece Hall had 10 carries for 4 yards.
Yeah.
And was in and out of the game. Seems like Robert Saleh is making himself an enemy for some reason. So Dallas, maybe give Joe Douglas a call, see if he wants rid of Breece Hall, because they have Braylon Allen and they love him already. And Breece Hall is obviously garbage, so get rid of him. He's a bad influence. Get rid of that guy, please. Yeah, weird. I don't know how else to describe it. Weird. It's funny seeing Aaron Rodgers lose, getting 225 yards to a guy who got 60 though. Very fun. And I don't really know what you're getting with the Jets right now. If you shut Garrett Wilson down, it feels like you shut the offense down. Yeah. Unless Braylon Allen or Breece Hall break a big one. And Patrick Surtain has kind of been the I don't want to say he is Rivers Island, but he's kind of the equivalent this year of like you just put him on the number 1 and tell teams to go and beat you otherwise, and teams are struggling to take advantage of that. Even when the Broncos are getting beat, they're not getting, the defense is standing up pretty well.
Yeah. Broncos, that's 2-2 now after another upset win on the road against Tampa last week. This week against the Jets as big underdogs. I think what interested me most thinking in this one was after the game and Rodgers' press conference, and things are getting real chippy between Rodgers and Saleh, I think. So there was obviously a question from the press around Rodgers' cadence and around what he do. Obviously, we saw an example of the game where obviously he gets the defensive line to jump, you get the free play. But the Jets had 5 false starts, I think it was. And Saleh was like, no, maybe we're just going to need to dial it back. And Rodgers was like, well, why would we do that? We're 4 weeks in. This is the only time it's happened. It's worked pretty well. So why would we just bin it? Because obviously that's a part of what I do.
Yeah.
Things are getting chippy. And they don't get along.
No, it really doesn't seem like it. And I don't know, Robert Saleh he doesn't strike me as a real leader, as a franchise. Great DC, but I think I don't think New York's a place for him. I think it's maybe too big for him, truthfully. I kind of felt the same about Todd Bowles, who's gone to Tampa and carved out a nice niche for himself. But yeah, Saleh, I think maybe either needs to go to a smaller market or go back to DC work, I think, because he just doesn't seem to have the people skills even, or the management skills to be a franchise leader, and New York's a tough place to try and do that.
Yeah, rough one. Jets, obviously in London. We'll hear a bit more about the Jets. We've got Fraser Campbell, the 2023 New York Jets International Fan of the Year, joining us as our guest picker to also preview the London game in our Week 5 preview as the Jets head to Tottenham to take on the undefeated Minnesota Vikings. Broncos have got I prepped this before and I've lost it. Broncos have got the Raiders. Another winnable game for the Broncos. Only game we haven't talked about is the Philadelphia Eagles against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay bounced back from last week's loss against the Broncos with a throttling of the Philadelphia Eagles. The Bucs won this 33-16. Bucs started off on fire. Baker was at it again. He was 340 odd yards for 2 touchdowns. The offense was humming. And although Philadelphia were struggling from an injury perspective, they just got beat down in the first half of that game.
Yeah, it kind of shows, Devonta Smith missing, AJ Brown missing, Jalen Hurts. I seen a good tweet actually. Like, his worst games have always come against Todd Bowles teams, and somewhat famously, his worst game in college football came in a bowl game. So just get Jalen Hurts in non-bowls games and he'll be fine. But that isn't how things work, unfortunately. The Eagles just didn't get anything going, did they? Jalen Hurts about 50%, 1 touchdown. Not much running the ball. Saquon was okay running the ball, but nothing groundbreaking. Not captain worthy in Fantasy Gameday, certainly.
Yeah, it was that one big run at the start of the third quarter. So when he did break one, they only ran him again twice.
Yeah.
Bizarre play calling. And Sid just mentioned this in the Bills game earlier on. It was just bizarre. Philly got something going and then they just stopped. And then what they decided to do was put it in the hands of Jalen Hurts, and then he just couldn't keep hold of the fucking football.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, Paris Campbell had a touchdown, and then that was it on offense for the Eagles, really. Oh, no, Jalen Hurts had a rushing touchdown as well, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the kick block touchdown, that went all the way back, right?
Yeah, they had an extra point return for 2. Yeah,
extra point. Yeah.
It was an extra point. Yeah, blocked and they returned it for 2. And that suddenly, in a moment, from the Bucs had killed it off to keeping it. That would have made it a 3-score game, and it kept it a 2-score game.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're thinking, well, Philly can get some momentum, but they was decided what we're going to do is try and air it out with Jalen Hurts. The O-line banged up, and he just kept getting pressured and fumbling the ball. Bizarre strategy.
I mean, you look at some of the names, though. I mean, to be fair, the names that you're throwing the ball to.
Yeah.
Paris Campbell, Grant Calcaterra, John Dodson, John Ross. John Ross is still in the league. Yeah. And wearing like number 37 or something. 30, might be 38.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, Jack Stoll and Johnny Wilson, who is, what is he, 80 foot tall? He's a big lad, Johnny Wilson. Odd looker. But yeah, that is not, that's like a preseason squad.
Yeah.
And if your top 2 guys, top money, then you're not going to have depth.
So why is Saquon Barkley only touching the ball 12 times in that game?
Yeah, and like you said, when was the big run was out of the third quarter, right, early on?
Out of the third quarter, yeah, and he touched it twice after that.
Yeah, I don't know. Unsurprisingly, I guess.
I don't think Nick Sirianni knows as well. And
well, I think if you do a poll on Philadelphia, I think the sooner Nick Sirianni isn't in charge of making that decision, I think they'd be pleased with. So yeah, that's I think you might be looking at between him and Robert Saleh and maybe Doug Peterson as who's got the hottest butt in the NFL.
Yeah,
in non-sexual terms.
It's not been obviously Jalen Hurts needs by far and away the most turnovers in the NFL since the start of last year. That was the second fumble was his 27th since the start of last season.
Yeah, it's coming down for Jalen Hurts, sadly for him. I think it'll be interesting to see what he does with new coaching staff, because I think we'll be getting there soon. And it does feel like a lot of times Jalen Hurts has to be the adult in the room with Sirianni around, which I don't think is what you really want your quarterback to do. You want your quarterback to be able to focus on quarterbacking, unsurprisingly. So, I think it will be interesting what we get. Change has to be coming in Philadelphia. I know they have had injuries. I know, like we just reading out that playlist, it is banged up.
Yeah.
But there just doesn't seem to be any plan.
No. Eagles have got a bye week. I know it's early, but it feels like they need it given their injuries. Bucks are on Thursday Night Football against the Falcons. We'll talk about that at the end. Eagles 2-2, Tampa top of the NFC South at 3-1. That's the last game that we're going to talk about. From an ATS perspective, I had a stinker, 3-11 going into Monday Night Football. Byron a little bit better, 6-8, and Joe at 7-7. Joe still leading the way on that one. Quick look at Fantasy Gameday. Just to wrap things up, shout out to Lavender9539 who won with a score of 190.86. We finished 69th. We mentioned the Eagles, and that talked a little bit bad about the Eagles. Barkley was our captain and just screwed us with the lack of usage, and Rashee Rice killed us going out the game. We'd have if Rashee Rice had just had a 5-reception, 60-yard game, we'd have been up in the prizes. But yeah, Nico Collins, captain in this one, had a huge game, as we've already mentioned. 12 grabs, 150 yards, and a touchdown. Jordan Love, even in a poor performance from the Packers overall, 28 points from your quarterback. The 3 interceptions didn't really kill them too much. And then I suppose the other shout out, Swift and Reed, which was that Love handcuff. Those were the difference makers for this player who ended up winning this week.
Yeah, I feel like I say this every week about at least one of the players who wins is like, man, that's a bold call. Putting DeAndre Swift in your lineup. We don't have the prices on the winning ones. He must have been a good price because that's a nice lineup otherwise. And he was a good price for a reason because he's done jack all to start the season. But yeah, a bold call to put him in, and a 30-point return is absolutely magnificent because you do not expect. I'm not sure how many weeks I would have said it'll take DeAndre Swift to get to 29.5 points. I didn't think it'd be 1. So, love Jaden Reed, DeAndre Swift, big time contributors there. T. Higgins, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, Najee Harris round them off, who all contributed positively. There's no like duds in there. We normally see at least one kind of like dud, normally the tight end, truthfully, isn't it? But yeah, 6.5 points from Cole Kmet is a nice. It might have put him over the edge. I'm not sure how close second was, but real nice return. And Nico Collins as captain feels like that could just be an every week slotting, to be fair. Yeah,
that's fair. Also, I think that lesson, we're 4 weeks in now. Don't bother spending money on your tight end. Just get someone cheap. Get the cheapest starter you can get. Who's going to get a couple of targets because whatever you get there and spend it elsewhere, because the gap between the top tight end and the rest is so short, so small. Yeah. So that's certainly a lesson, I think, so far for daily fantasy in 2024. And last bit, Byron, we'll just talk about Thursday Night Football.
Yeah. Good game.
Bucks Falcons is the game. I've got the line, but I've lost it because I've got the PowerPoint still up on the screen. I think the Bucks are 2.5. No, Falcons are 1.5 point favourites.
Yeah, so it's in our line now.
Yeah, it is not over under 43.5. What's your initial thoughts, feelings on Thursday Night Football?
I like the Bucks as an underdog. That's my initial thought, certainly. I think maybe throw that Bucks game away against the Broncos, which the Broncos defense is looking better than, I dare say, most anybody expected. And yeah, the way the Falcons have looked so far, I think they're kind of there for the taking. And especially Vita Vea players, who, he was back in yesterday and he always makes an impact even if it doesn't show up on the stat sheet. I think the Bucks are kind of surprising to me for how I felt about the Falcons coming into the season. I think the Bucks are just a better team. Godwin's been playing really well. Mike Evans finally got rolling this week. To get 2 touchdowns this week, Mike Evans, I believe. No, just the 1 touchdown, but 94 yards. I think the Bucks are just a better team, better coached at this point. And on the, we touched on Kyle Pitts earlier, but on the Kyle Pitts stuff, I'm not sure if you've seen Zach Robinson's comments about it, but it was stats are for losers. Doesn't care about the stats. It's like, okay, I mean, you're welcome to your opinion, but like that didn't go so well for Arthur Smith. Like, you could just talk about like what you try to do with your players. Maybe. So I don't know. It's that kind of thing that doesn't. I'm saying Zach Robinson, he's the OC. Raheem Morris, who I'll actually throw under the bus, not his OC. So I think for the the Falcons to win this game, you need to see a big game from, I think, Bijan Robinson. But with Vita Vea in there, I'm not too sure how likely that is. So, I like the Bucs plus 1.5. Like the Bucs on the money line as well. Over under 43.5 feels pretty high to me, but I wouldn't be stunned. I think we'll have to wait and see how that Falcons O-line injury reports come in Tuesday, Wednesday before making a bet on that one, maybe. But right now, if I was picking, I'd be going the Bucs and the under.
Yeah, fair. I'm liking the Bucs as well, and that worries me. That's us to the end of our Week 4 review. I promise I will be much better in Week 5. Before that, though, give us a follow. Good Teams with Great Teams cover over on Spotify. You'll be notified when new episodes drop then. Also, follow along on our YouTube if you want to see our faces while we're talking. Twitter, X, Instagram to be seeing all the bet posts. Although I forgot to post Sunday Night Football stuff because it was very late.
You done us a favour.
Yeah, we didn't do well. But yeah,
follow us a favour.
Yeah, for sure. At GTW_GTC across the socials and TikTok as well. We missed Charlie pick again.
I completely forgot. I was so busy with work on Thursday, and then by the time I knew the game was starting, I was like, "Oh shoot!" And
we will make sure there is a Bucs Falcons Charlie pick for you this week.
That is a guarantee.
That is a guarantee. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you for our Week 5 review when the London games start. So always a good part of the season. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on Friday.